just kind of like, oh my God, wasn't expecting the time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea with Dr. D and Carissa.
Hello.
So we should be, I think we are streaming in all sorts of places. We should be on YouTube, but I think we're also in our other groups. Let me go ahead and post us in our Facebook, our little private Facebook community. If you're not in our private Facebook community, you should definitely be in our private Facebook community. But give us a shout out, say hello if you are here and watching us as I get this posted.
Sorry.
Carissa, are you all ready for the holidays?
Well, is anyone ever really ready?
You know,
I'm getting there as good as I can get. Just trying to remain calm and happy and actually enjoy the holiday instead of rushing through it, right? Like I'm trying to just really gain awareness and presence so I
yes.
can enjoy it and not be like, whoa, what the heck happened?
I know we're gonna talk so much about that tonight, everyone. So give us a shout out when you get in and you're watching us. Say hello. Let us know what platform you are watching us from. So I know it's funny, we're not near family. So the holidays are like so much different now. Like there's nothing really to do. It's just our little nuclear family. And I miss the old days when it was like my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles and all my cousins, and there's like 40 people at Christmas Eve. Um, I do miss that, but there on the flip side, there's something really nice about just having that very intimate holiday experience that makes it so like a deep breath of fresh air. So, but I know that you and I were talking about a lot of different things here recently, and the holidays is a recurrent theme, that comes up with our clients all the time, especially around this time of year, because it is a heightened time of stress. It is a time where we're faced with so many different things. Or some of our clients, like if we have new clients who are starting this time, they'll be like, wait a second, I think I might want to start like after the holidays. Or
Mhm.
they start to be like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to detox around this time of year? And these are like all really great questions that come up and for us to pay attention to. But I think, Carissa, what I think stands out most to me about the holiday season in general is it's kind of like it's a magnifying glass on everything else that's kind of going on in our lives and for us, and in the areas where we self-sabotage or we kind of break away from our commitments to ourself, and things start to they get, I think, amplified. Stress amplifies everything, right? And then stress helps to reveal where we might be disconnected from things, disconnected from ourselves and from our goals and from our focus. And
Mhm.
um, I think it's a really big deal, because it's not like we don't our bodies don't lose discipline during the holidays, right? A lot of times what happens, and we're always talking about this, is we move into that protection mode. You guys, you all want to check out my podcast that's going to drop on Thursday, on Thursday, because we talk a lot about this. I mean, you're seeing it with clients, right?
Oh yeah, and I love how you said like the holidays act like a magnifying glass
Hmm.
because from a nervous system perspective, that's exactly what's happening, right? The
Yeah.
holidays don't necessarily create new stress, but they
Hmm.
do amplify whatever the body has already been carrying. And I
Yeah.
think that's why things feel probably more intense, even if nothing really new is technically happening. I know we're busier, right? There's more moving parts. We have a lot more on our plate because there's parties to go to and, extra things to do and extra things to get. Um, but that stress is kind of already there, and then it just kind of gets amplified with this year.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I think a lot of times it's like, well, what do we do, right? What do we do? Clients are always like, how do I get through these holiday weeks with all these things that are taking place and the stressors and the company and the, having to do so many different things.
Mhm.
And yet maybe we were like committed to like having a really clean diet and doing those different things. So I know this comes up with our clients all the time.
Mhm.
And I had a conversation with a couple weeks ago with one of our clients who's just starting, and you and I talked about this conversation where initially she's like, yes, let's do this, and then she's like, well, the holidays, right? And there were a lot of different things that came up for her about the holidays, like how do I attend like a holiday gathering and like, well, don't I have to like eat everything that's put out for me, or don't I have to like do all these different things? And so we forget our boundaries, whether it be with food, whether it be with our self-care, whether it be with, taking on other people's emotions or letting things sort of fester, like, Aunt Sally said XYZ, and you're still like ruminating over what Aunt Sally, said, and now you find yourself like, reaching for an extra punch bowl in the punch bowl, or I don't know, something, a glass of wine,
I
or
was gonna say, or liquor.
yeah, exactly. So I think people get stuck there. I think that becomes a big part of that holiday stress that occurs as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing really comes, I think, down to boundaries,
Yeah.
and from, the lens of a nervous system perspective, like boundaries aren't rules. And I think that's really important for people to understand, because I know a lot of clients that I've worked with will struggle with that.
Hmm.
They get kind of upset, and they think that they're rules, and they think that they're strict and they don't like them really.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but boundaries are more of like safety cues. They're your guardrails,
Exactly.
because when boundaries disappear, whether it's around food, whether it's around time, our self care, our emotions,
Mhm.
the body does read that as a threat. It
Yes.
doesn't really read it as like flexibility. It's not like, oh, night off. you know, it's like, whoa, something's amiss here. We got to protect ourselves. You mentioned that earlier, right? It comes down to protection. Like, we have to protect ourselves. Um, and then I also want to touch on too, like a lot of the times we get guilt.
Oh, yes, guilt and shame. Anybody, like those of you who are watching, anybody like guilt and shame, like that pops up for you. Maybe you do have a bite of something that you wouldn't normally have a bite of, and then like, you like kind of spiral and beat yourself up over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see that all the time, and it's so funny because I love what you said about rules, because I have certain standards when it comes to like my diet, right? And there are some of those standards, they're like non-negotiable, right? I won't There are just certain things that I will not compromise on. But then there's other things that are like, okay, you know what? Like even sugar, like if there's a little bit of sugar in something, that's not something I do all the time, right? It's not something I do often at all, but if there's something special, the kids are like, oh, can we make XYZ? Or we have to buy it, right? We have to buy it, it's already made. Then there might be a little bit of leeway in there, but that leeway doesn't come with guilt, right?
Mm.
That leeway is like, okay, I'm giving myself permission here. Okay.
Mm.
And you're kind of like weighing it out. There's a difference between like giving yourself permission and like diving off the cliff. Oh, we've all done that too. We've all been like, oh, what the heck? I've already done this. Now let's do this and let's do this. When you find yourself in this spiraling vortex, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can make conscious choices and conscious decisions. And I think that that's where a lot of it comes from, because when we're conscious about our choices and decisions, then there is none of that like guilt and shame and beating ourselves up and this, that, and the other. And I think it's interesting. So if you're listening and you are the kind of person where, like, when you have a deviation for the holidays or something, you go into this spiral of guilt and shame, it's a really good opportunity to take a look at that. Like, okay, where does that come from? Why is that happening? What part of you is having you feel that guilt and shame, and why? So I think the holidays, like I said, they're like a magnifying glass. They just give us an opportunity to take a look at things because they're amplifying exactly what it is that's going on every day in our lives you know
Hmm. And I think that's important too, because I think it's a big misunderstanding around food is people think like, just because they ate something that maybe they shouldn't have, that it doesn't, if you're leading with intention,
hmm
I think it's okay because, what you just shared was really important, right? Like, you understand you're going to do this. Maybe you go out and buy it. It becomes enjoyable. It becomes fun. And the body reacts to that,
yes,
right? When
yes,
the body is in enjoyment, like digestion is better, hormones are better, inflammation is down, cortisol is down. So you're not like really holding on to that. Um, but when we go into it and we think, that deviation, for lack of a better word, and we feel like sabotage and like we're in shame, then it just creates a different effect on our body, and I don't think self sabotage, it's not about the food, it's about how unsafe we feel after the choice. Like shame tells the body like something is wrong with me. And
Mhm.
from there, it's like we're not in alignment
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It really is. It is, again, that alignment and that safety mechanism that you're talking about. And I always go back, you guys, like, if you haven't researched, go and look up Dr. Emoto's water crystal experiments,
We
right?
were just
Where
talking about this yesterday, Daniel.
Oh, good, good. I'm reading your brain. I'm following you. You don't know it.
For real, it's crazy.
So, but it really, what his research looked at is, it looked like these water crystals, and when those water crystals had love, they had these beautiful crystalline structures. When there was like hate or shame or guilt, like the
Mhm.
structures were a disaster. So if we think about our body as this bioenergetic coherent machine, is what we really want it to be, and we're throwing guilt and shame in there, well, we are adding to the chaos, right? And so when we go into that spiral, we're actually taking away from our health at so many different levels, more so than just the bite of chocolate that you had, or the
Mhm.
the missed workout, or the whatever. Now, I'm saying this, and it's not like, okay, so there's, no hold bar, like it doesn't matter anymore, do whatever you want. That's not what I'm saying, right? Because think about that. That then becomes an out of integrity with yourself. So
Mhm.
you have a commitment to having ideal health, for having your energy, for sleeping well, for releasing weight, for being strong and healthy into the triple digit numbers of age. Then you want to align your habits and behaviors with that also, right? And that does mean you still have to maintain that level, but you can't beat yourself up all the time.
No, it doesn't feel good either. You know what I mean? Like, who really? I mean, do we have motivation after we get done beating ourselves up? Not
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think what you really point out, which I love, is the coherence. You know what I mean? When there's guilt or shame, the body experiences that internal conflict. And
Yes,
conflict is chaos in the nervous system. And that's why
yes,
the stress response from shame can be more harmful than the food choice itself. So I hope everyone's kind of collecting that. And if you have questions, just ask them. I have the chat box on. I'm sure you do too,
Yeah,
Deb.
guys, say hello. Tell us who's there watching, and tell us what you're thinking about what we're saying. Tell us what your what your concerns are for the holiday, and what you're worried about, like managing during the holiday season. I know the big one that comes up is around like not letting other people down. That's a big one. Like, oh, I don't want to let them down because I don't want to eat, whatever that is, or I don't want to let them down because, I don't have time to, do everything that everybody else wants me to do. And again, that it comes back to that coherence with yourself. And I think it's interesting, Carissa, because this gives us an opportunity to take a look at or amplify, like I said before, all the little conversations that go on in the back of our head. So if there is this conversation of like, oh, I don't want to disappoint so and so by, not having their, I don't know, their, most famous mac and cheese hamburger helper, I don't know, whatever. Whatever that thing is. Well, you want to take a look, where else in your life do you worry about, are you going to hurt somebody else through those things? And that's a real big one. I mean, how many of you come from like traditional Italian families? Like, yeah, that's like that's that's part of the way I grew up too. But you realize, like, if you were in that space and someone was holding their commitments to themselves, how would you react to them holding that commitment to themselves? Would you honestly and authentically be upset or angry or mad, right? And then you want to take a look at that, so it's this constant, you've got the ability to really use the holidays to learn and grow on that personal level, to really take a look at, because these places where we get stuck on the holidays, they're the same places we get stuck in our life in other places, you know they're the same things that pop up over and over again, the same sabotages, the same scenarios. They just might look a little different when it's not holiday season.
And I love that you pointed that out because they will always pop up. It's just like they pop up just with a different dressing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think it's important. I mean, I know that I didn't always think so, but triggers are so useful.
they are.
I
They
did
are.
not like them very much, and I found them to. I would sometimes be like, I must not be healing, or I must not be doing good enough, because you're being triggered. But when you look at them, like, whoa, triggers are actually really useful because they show us exactly where safety hasn't been established yet. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just information.
Yes.
It's where the body is reacting faster than the conscious mind. It's like something here reminds me of a time when blank, you
Yes.
know. So I learning that I was able to shift it from like, why am I like this, to
Mhm.
like, what is this protecting?
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know and it's more of like an invitation that points us directly to the places
Mhm.
where integration is still happening.
we're still learning. We're still getting better. I'm always get better with the dishes left in the sink, and but I can be honest and transparent about that, right? If I
Yeah.
sat and I simmered and I stewed in it all the time versus being like, okay, I see that's still my trigger. I got to work there. If I sit in that space of that upset, then it impacts me physiologically, right? And now my body is taking a hit for that. So, guys, comment, what are your triggers? What do you know are some of your holiday triggers? What are some of your holiday triggers? Put it, like, type it in whatever platform you're watching this in. Type it in the comment section. What are those holiday triggers for you? Like, Carissa, what are some of your holiday triggers?
I don't know. I feel like
She's like, I'll let you know tomorrow and the next day.
we can come back to it on Friday. Well, you know what it is? We've been hosting um,
Uh-huh.
Christmas Eve, so it is a little bit different, and I really do love to host, and I very much enjoy it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think hosting just kind of puts you in a different position, because you're kind of making the menu, and you know what I mean? I'm using all organic ingredients. I'm using all the
Yes.
ingredients that I
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of different. But I guess thinking about it back in the day, it would be like trying a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Especially if someone was like, "Oh, you're not going to try that? I made that." And have it if it was just this really, you know, food that just didn't agree with me.
Yeah,
You
you'd have
know,
to.
and
Yes.
it's like that fear of disappointing someone.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And not connecting with them,
Yeah.
and it kind of, just going through that, right? It's something simple, it's something quick that happens, but it's like your body feels it and it amplifies any of those like inner conversations,
Yeah.
that's like, I don't want to let that person down,
Mhm.
you
Well,
know?
and it's important to notice because when we come from a place of, I don't want to let that person down, like what else is going on in the background that's
Mm,
having that run the show for you, right? It's like,
yes.
do I want to eat this thing that's going to make me sick, or do I want to not let that person down? And then you're like, huh. So if you're choosing not to let that person down, we also have to take a look at where is that self love and that self
Mm,
respect that allows you to do what it is that you need to do for yourself and in your body, right? And so it's an important thing for us to take a look at, right? It's an important thing for us to examine. And I don't want to. There is no right answer, right? There is no right answer for each person. It's going to be individually different, but it really becomes that inquiry into like what is it that's really driving the bus to have me think and feel this way. So think about those things. Lorraine says her thing is cookies. Cookies are the thing. And so let's take that. Like, so if you really love cookies, right? There's so many different options that you could take, right? Number one, like Carissa, you said you take some control over what your food and what the ingredients are. So
mhm.
you could make cookies. We still make things for the holidays. I make desserts with my kids, right? We just upgrade from wherever it is, like whatever the conventional thing might be. We just make it better. Like I always say, there is this continuum. Your choices with food could like get worse and worse and worse, going all the way in the camera is cutting us off here, but all the way in one direction, right? And then it could get better and better and better all the way in the other direction. So imagine, for example, let's take like, I don't know, let's take like apple pie. So like maybe all the way in the negative, harmful to your health direction is like, I don't know, a McDonald's, what are they, fried apple pie filled with probably no real apples and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe that's like all the way down on that end of the spectrum. But then we could like move up, maybe like, coming further down the spectrum. Maybe it's like a pie from, I don't know, Stop and Shop or the grocery store's apple pie. It's not gluten free. Maybe it's got some hydrogenated oils. Maybe there's some seed oils. Maybe it's got sugar. So maybe that's the next down the line. Then you can continue down the line, and maybe you've got grandma's fresh baked apple pie straight out of the oven, made with love. But then maybe there's like the next level where it's you've made your own, maybe you made a gluten-free pie. There's no crazy oils in it. Maybe you used maple syrup or honey instead of sugars, right? So maybe there's that. Then maybe like down the line, going in the other positive direction, maybe it's like a fresh apple that you just picked off some biodynamically grown tree, and it's like the epitome of all. So you've got this spectrum, and so there is not like a right or wrong, but where do you want to be on that spectrum? And so you can make better choices and decisions. When we make food for the holidays in my house, we're not like reverting all the way back to the McDonald's fried apple pie thing, right? We might not be eating, fresh picked apples off the tree either, but we are making that pie that tastes really good, that makes us feel good, that we're happy, that we enjoy, that still meets a higher level of standards, right? So
Hmm.
there is a lot of flexibility in that. Yeah. Lorraine, I hope you're saying yuck to the McDonald's fried apple pie.
I
I'm
think
guessing
she was. Yeah, I think that's what you're talking.
I'm guessing that you are. I
Yeah.
don't even know.
I love, by the way, how you just that spectrum example, because for me, it takes food out of right and wrong, and you like pulled it into like awareness and choice. And
Yes.
it's very regulating. I think
Yes.
when the body feels like it has options instead of rules, we can actually stay present in that. And while you were talking, I was thinking like those, because we get clients who would be like, "Oh, but I have family recipes."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
choice isn't always about like I couldn't change the recipe, you know. And it's more about like meaning and memory and connection. You know, a recipe made by your grandmother.
Right.
Um, but you can do like little shifts. You just don't tell anyone.
And they never notice, Carissa. They never
Never
really
noticed.
notice.
They
It's
never
only if
noticed.
you say that they notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you can, it's we don't we need to come to the point where like we respect what we want for our body, where we give ourselves enough space and leeway so that we're not creating this fear of eating anything else either, but that we're still respecting what it is that we align with. And everyone's in a different place and everyone has a different alignment, but it's bringing, like you said before, another level of consciousness to what we're doing and what we're eating, what we're choosing to eat, what we're preparing for the holidays, and that is a very different relationship with food than, like you said before, of like good, bad, this, that, right? It's like bringing it to that place. And Lorraine, yeah, you can make gluten-free cookies sweetened with dates. Absolutely. So, we'll use things like dates. We will use coconut sugar. We will use maple syrup. We will use honey, right? There are plenty of really good options that don't require sugar or other things, right? And if having that little bit of sugar once in a while, depending on your health status, right, is not going to kill you. The the perseverating over it sometimes can be more dangerous, right,
Yes.
than the bite. And keep in mind, you guys, too, like if there's something you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta try that, the science shows that really it's like the first two bites that are what we really, really taste. So remember that, right? So remember that.
Hmm. That's true. And like you said before, like everyone's alignment looks different,
Yeah.
and I think what matters is that the choice feels honest and integrated for
Yeah.
yourself and never forced.
Yes.
Because it's not about good or bad. It's really about bringing consciousness to the choice. Because when you choose with awareness, the relationship with food and how you navigate around it and how you navigate with, in functions and parties, like it all starts to change.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. I think, the other thing I want to talk about is stress, because I think the stress is important, right? There's all some level of stress. Everyone's got some level of stress happening in their lives, and how we relate to that stress always makes a really big difference. But if we are walking through the holiday seasons really stressed out, then we are, number one, more likely to make poorer choices. That's
Mhm.
just a given, right? Our defenses are down, our body's not, resonating at its optimal. We enter into this, survival mode, and like everything kind of goes astray. I'll tell you, Carissa, I shared this with Carissa before. She's like, you've got to talk about this when you talk about it. So So every a couple times a year, I do a 3 day fast, and I was doing my 3 day fast. What was the last week? Last week, the week before. Anyhow, and I was like on day two, and I got a phone call about something that it was an immediate like trigger for me. So this is that trigger awareness. It was an immediate trigger for me, and I did have, so I will do water and I will do tea, and I did have a pot of chai on the stove. So, guys, it is the best thing. You just boil ginger, cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, and it's like it's heaven. So, anyway, I had this pot on the stove, and oh, you've got some now. Pretty awesome.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, there was what was in there that I could grab was a cinnamon stick, and the next thing I know, like I'm chewing on this cinnamon stick while I'm on the phone, with a colleague of mine, and I realize it right as I'm chewing. I'm like, whoa, like, look at that. How triggered am I? And I'm like, I don't want to eat the cinnamon stick, right? So I like got the cinnamon stick out of my mouth, but it happens to all of us, right? Like, just because I teach and practice and guide and consult doesn't mean I don't do stuff like that too. Like, it is part of being a human being. It's the ability to kind of catch yourself when these things are happening. But stress for sure is a trigger. And instead of like jumping on the phone with my colleague, what I could have done differently was just get myself grounded first, right? Get myself grounded, get present in the moment, like come back into my body, get out of my head, because the head, you guys, is like a dangerous place to be, but come back into my body and just become more aware. Because when we start to run on autopilot because of stress, that's when we find ourselves doing all of these sabotage behaviors. And that gets heightened during the holidays. So maybe just take whatever time you can. It doesn't, I was talking with one of our clients this morning who's got a lot of things going on for herself at work, and it's a new boss and the high responsibilities, and she's doing all these things she wasn't doing before, and she was trying to get some box breathing in through the day. But like sometimes that's hard. She doesn't have 2 or 3 minutes to sit around and just breathe. But just hand on your heart, hand on your belly, take a deep breath, and then move on. It could be that simple, right? Or
Mhm.
Lisa and I, we like to just like rub your fingers, come back into the present moment, rub
Mhm.
your fingers together to just bring back that sensation and that awareness into the present moment.
Mhm. I do. I think that's going to be one of my all-time favorite stories. Um,
Eating the cinnamon stick.
yes, because it shows like so clearly, like in real time. You know what I mean? Like stress lowers the defenses, and
Yes.
not because we lack discipline, but because the nervous system shifts into that survival, right? And when that happens, the body looks for something immediately to regulate it with.
Yeah.
And I get so much enjoyment. I find it so funny, and I just love how you came through it. You know what I mean? Like you notice, like, oh, this is a trigger, like, and once we notice that, guys, like when that's happening, when you start looking at that, like the pattern loses its power. Like
Yes.
you don't shame it, you
Yeah.
don't have to spiral, like you just observe it. And I think that's such an important point for everyone listening. Like awareness doesn't mean that you never react, it
Yeah.
just means that you caught yourself sooner, and you caught yourself with more compassion.
Yeah. And you guys, stress has specific patterns that have been locked into your brain, right?
Mhm.
So stress locks the brain into those familiar past patterns, and in reaching for something, it's not just something in my past patterns, but honestly, like it's in my mom's past patterns, it's in my grandparents' past patterns, right? Like it's in that history. It's almost like it's come all the way down through the chain. And so working to have those moments of resets and those moments of awareness is really important, because what they do is they interrupt the pattern, right? They interrupt that automatic pattern that's about to kind of take off. Okay. So I think that's really, really, really important. And I know we're talking about like stress in relationship to food, but it can also be stress in relationship to your emotions or your conversations. Or if you're going to a family event and your family is like, there's always going to be XYZ argument happening. Again, that's a pattern. So you can
Mm-hmm.
notice those patterns just with that awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Awareness doesn't erase the pattern. It just really interrupts it long enough for something new to emerge.
I love that. Yeah. So I think, Carissa, another thing that I want to address that falls into line here for the holidays and we've kind of alluded to it already, but it's that all or nothing thinking, right? Like I got to do this perfectly or I'm not going to do anything at all. And I think this is something that comes up a lot for people. And I want to say a couple things, right? Number one, perfection doesn't actually help your body calm. It actually puts you onto that high state, and if there's if we're always comparing ourselves to this high level, right? But like we want to do something that might deviate somewhat, then we're putting our body back into that stress state over and over and over again. And for those of you, for example, who are like, you're like, I know I'm working on my weight loss or things like that. And you're like, but I can't lose weight. My weight's not budging. I'm eating perfect. I'm exercising and all of that. Well, if you're constantly in that stress state, nothing's going away, right? So you want to keep bringing yourself back. And I think, it comes to being present, right? Being present in the moment, recognizing what's happening in the moment. What are the conversations in your head? What are the actions that you're taking? How does your body feel? All of those different things.
Yeah, progress happens in degrees,
Mhm.
not in declarations, and I think the problem is all or nothing thinking actually increases stress,
Mhm.
which then makes regulation and good choices harder, not easier. So instead of thinking like, because you're right, we try to do it perfectly,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and again, perfect is coming from a pattern of protection. There's something there. But you don't need to figure it out, by the way. I was just talking to a client today and she kept saying, but why? But why? And I'm like, we don't need to figure that out right now to move forward.
Yeah.
We don't, I've been there myself where I've had like a microscope on something like, why do I do this?
Yes.
I didn't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like the answers will come as I keep going. I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. But, consistency it isn't built through perfection like we sometimes think it is, but it is built through repair, which I think is kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's
You know?
always about the darn journey, man, and the darn journey never ends. So we're
Yeah.
always learning, growing, evolving. Like just when you think like you've gotten there, like there is someplace else to go.
Hmm.
And that's part of the fun of it. But we can approach it in different ways, right? Like we could be like upset about it, or it could be like, oh look how awesome that is. So if we just reframe a lot of the things, life just in general gets a lot easier. Not just surviving the holidays, but really thriving through not just the holidays but through our lives. So there's another thing I want to leave you guys with tonight is think about, well, what can be reframed, right? Where can you reframe different things that are going on during the holiday season? And I also want to acknowledge that includes, there are people who think about the holidays and they're wonderful and they're joyous and they're really happy. And then, I mean, there are people I want to acknowledge that may be in a space of grief during the holiday season where there are other things that are going on in their life or things that have happened. And again, it's no different no matter what side you're standing on, right? Looking to get present in the moment, reframe is it's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think reframing is very important too. Like where is something that can be reframed right now. Not fixed, not forced, just really seen from a different angle. And, for those of us that are grieving or going through a tough time, that's okay too. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be fixed or forced either,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think the important thing to remember here is, we go back to what I teach, and that's to listen, right? To
Hmm.
really, let go of whatever it is, get present in the moment, set your intentions, tune into your body, right? And really get present to what it is that you need and what your body needs. So if you are the type of person where it is high stress. So I know you were talking about, Carissa, you love to host, and Lorraine said she loves to host, and I love to host too. But the truth is, like, I can get like my mother sometimes when I host, like before company comes, like I'm just a basket case because there's like
Hmm.
5,000 things to do. And I've
Yeah.
got, I've come to the point in my life where I've realized, okay, this is my pattern. Okay. This is what I do. It's a learned pattern and behavior. And now I need to be like just present to, like, hey, okay, I love hosting. I love have company over. I love preparing all the food. I really enjoy that. And I can do that without creating such a high level of stress, right? Like I can do that and just have like trust and faith and like, hey, it's all going to work out. And if XYZ isn't done in time, well, so I'll finish it while people are here, you know? So really just kind of getting focused and present and seeing what you need. Sometimes you might need to, if there are some people are very sensitive to social events where there is a lot of people, there's a lot going on. If you need to like take yourself and head to the restroom and close the door for 2 minutes and put your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly just to regroup yourself, then do that. Listen to what it is that your body needs. There
Hmm.
may be a time where your body's like, wow, I really want that. I need that chocolate cake. I want to feel that sensation. But if you've just like overstuffed yourself and your body's like, you can't put anything else in, this is not going to be good if you do, then listen to that, right? Pay attention, tune in to it.
I love that because I mean, sometimes that can still pop up for me, but it was very prevalent years ago where like everything, I also had to have everything perfect. I mean,
Mhm.
I was running around too. I mean, I would clean my house days before and expect it to be clean, but then still clean, you know what I mean? Still clean like that morning before. And then if things got messy, like I was just all out of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not really fun. It's frantic, it's scattered energy, and it's not who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's really just coming from a body that, for me it was like I need to perform to be safe,
Mm-hmm.
and just even naming it was, big for me, and to be able to like be more present and not disassociate or spiral, and really just enjoy the holiday. Not saying that I still don't clean like a maniac, but it's just a little bit different. I'm just, like I said, I'm not as frantic and my energy is not as pulled, and I'm definitely doing things throughout the time to pull my energy back, like you were talking about before, like, getting back into my body, like by rubbing my fingers, or doing the breath work, or just really being in my body, for 10 seconds,
Yeah.
20 seconds. It doesn't really need to take us a lot of time to kind of just snap back into the body.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what, guys? I think that so have fun with all of this the next couple weeks, right? Like have fun when you find yourself in a situation. I always tell all of our clients, you are an N of one. Like when we work with our clients and we have them go through our programs and stuff, we want them to really pay attention to what happens to them in their bodies because it's different, right? What happens
Mhm.
in your body is different than what happens to me in my body, and how my body reacts versus how your body reacts, and what works for mine and what works for yours. Like they're different, right? that's why the science is all over the darn place because we're all different, you know and so use this time as like a playground, right? So here you are in this playground for the next 2 weeks. and notice what turns up. And notice. So let's say you're like, you know what? I'm going to have that piece of chocolate cake or whatever. Maybe it's not on your program, but you decide that you're going to have it. Well, notice. Get curious. What happens in your body? How do you feel the next day after that? Maybe write it down so you can like go back and start to look at the patterns of how your body reacts to things. Use it like a playground, right? So
Mhm.
have it be a time where you can be engaged in this experiment, right? In this space of curiosity. Carissa and I we're reworking our curriculum that we have, with our clients at South Bay Wellness, and part of what we're working into the curriculum very clearly, because I think it's really important, is hey, you are an N of one. You are like
Mhm.
your experiment. Your experiment doesn't turn out like anybody else's, and
Mhm.
so I invite you all to play in that space, for these next couple weeks, because it's different when we come to it with a, oh my gosh, it's stressful, it's going to be all this, versus, oh, look at this, I get to spend the next couple weeks playing, like getting curious about myself, learning, growing, like seeing things that maybe I couldn't see before because the spotlight's going to be shining right on it. So
Yeah. I think that's so great because it just reminds me too. I'm like, yeah, have fun. I love to have fun, and I love to tell clients to have fun too because
yeah,
I think it's also one of the fastest ways to move out of survival mode because the brain literally cannot be curious and
yeah,
judgmental at the same time.
yes,
And it's like curiosity just brings you back online,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely,
and you know, healing doesn't come from fixing yourself. It really comes from just meeting
hmm,
yourself. And I love what you said, like, oh, that's so interesting. What's going on there?
yeah,
What just happened in my body right there? And I think when you play around with it like that, that alone kind of lowers the threat,
yeah,
we can see things more
yes,
clearly and just kind of have fun and move through them.
hmm,
So, yeah, awesome. Definitely play with it. Notice when stress shows up. Notice when food feels charged. Notice when you want to people please.
uh-huh.
Notice when you want to control, when you want to check out, and not to change it, just to kind of observe it. Because
Yeah,
when we stop fighting the reactions, we
hmm,
start to feel safe in the body. And when we
yes,
feel safe in the body, that allows change to happen.
yeah, yeah. We can't change anything if we're living in fear, right? Nothing shifts and alters when fear is present. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we can bring that level of safety, like everything shifts and changes, right? And hopefully, Lorraine, I see you're on here loving the word reframe better than mind shifting, because if we can take stuff that normally stresses us out or has us self-sabotage, and we can find the reframe, right? We can reframe that, then everything changes, right? Everything shifts. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too, Lorraine. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as we just stay truly present, right? Like we bring that safety back online, and
Yeah.
then things just start to shift.
So, you guys, you all got these next couple weeks. I know that you do. And I will say this, there, there is nothing more valuable than support. And as human beings, we are social creatures. If you find that you are in a space where you are stuck, then get support, get help. If you're working with us and our team, reach out to us. If you're
Mhm.
if you're not, I mean, find a friend, right? Someone where you can be like, hey, I'm noticing XYZ, and work through whatever that thing is. Sometimes it takes an outside person to help you reframe something so that you have a better space of
Mhm.
understanding it, right? Sometimes we get so stuck in a specific thing that we can't get out of it ourselves. And that's just, that's normal. We're in that pattern. We've dug that pattern in so well. Sometimes we need a
Mhm.
little a little kick out of the rut there, so to speak.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
love that. And I'll just add to be gentle with yourself. You
Hmm.
know, this time of year does bring up a lot of memories, expectations, family dynamics, food, emotion. Um, and if you're having a hard time, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you're human, you know? So rest when you can, drink your water, you know,
Yes.
set a reminder if you need to, breathe before you react. And if you notice yourself getting activated, just come back into your body. Even something as simple as feeling your feet on the floor or rubbing your fingers together, like we
Mhm.
were just talking about, you know, feeling the ridges of your skin can bring you back to the present moment. And you don't need to do any of it perfectly, and you don't need to fix anything. Just stay curious and just stay kind to yourself and playful, like we were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, one of the most powerful things that you can do to shift any moment is come to a space of gratitude. So no matter what it is, how bad the moment is, if you can find just one thing to be grateful for, then that can help shift an entire state of being in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that. And we're grateful for all of you who are here tonight and tuning in live, or all of you who are going to watch the replay. And we want to hear, like, leave in the comments from whatever platform you're watching. Tell us what you heard, what you're going to implement, what's really made a difference for you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yes. Thank you. I'm grateful for everyone here too. And definitely reach out if anyone needs support. You know, any questions, please type them in or send us a message. And if you're a client and you need anything, reach out to us.
All right, everyone. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, happy whatever it is that you are celebrating. And remember, 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 be good, kind, and loving to yourself and remain present. Bye bye,
Yes.
everyone.